you remember your first conversation with Paul Heyman?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Didn't took place at 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And I never knew him and Cornette had heat, right?
Okay.
I don't even know if I've ever said this in an interview. So I worked with a local wrestler, myself, I was a local wrestler too. It was in Detroit. It was my memory's sharp too. So Grand Rapids, there were a lot of people working out there. Then Lansing, there were no workouts before the show. Then in Detroit, it was myself and one other person. Taz and Paul were sitting ringside. Just had a good solid, basic 5 minute match. So he goes, "Hey, how old are you?" And at the time, I just turned 23. He goes, "How tall are you?" He goes, 6 foot. He goes, "I want to talk to you after the show." So I'm like, "Okay." So I hung out, watched the show. It was a great show too in Detroit. And that's when Sid came out and he choke slammed. I forget, over the top rope through a table. It was cool. It was cool as shit. And I don't know if we can cuss,
Of
but
course you
okay.
can.
So long story short, I say that a lot. Everybody take a shot every time they hear me say long story short. You're getting drunk tonight. Uh, so, so uh, afterwards, they do all the promos. And then Paul's like, hey, I want to have a talk with you. And I remember it like it was yesterday. He was standing there and we're in this hallway. It was an arena at the fairgrounds, Detroit fairgrounds. And then the locker rooms here. So he's like, hey, did you ever try going to WCW or WWF? At the time it was WWF. And I go, well, I'd send stuff to WCW and never hear anything back. Cornette got me a tryout, really liked, in 98, the summer, and this is January of 99. So I go, nothing came of it, the camp and all that. So it was with Dory Funk Jr. And and so he goes, I go, Cornette really loves my work. And he literally looks off to the side. He goes, huh, we agree on something. And looked back at me, and I didn't know what that meant. So Pee Wee told me he left around 1 o'clock. He goes, I got to tap out. I got to go home. Call me right when you get home. Let me know what Paul says. So after the meeting, Paul goes, you want a job? I go, yeah. He goes, you're hired, blah, blah, blah. You'll start next week. So I called Pee Wee, tell him I got hired. I go, one thing. I go, and I told him what I just told you about
Yeah.
him and Cornette. He goes, oh, they got big heat. I'm like, well, I'm glad I can bridge that gap of heat. They agree on something. So